good. Stop. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm live. It'll take a few seconds for people to come on. I love you. Thank you, director. So ordinarily, I have my children helping me out, but after several episodes, this is episode 7, they begin to lose interest. So we'll wait for some people to get on. Oops. There we go. All right, waiting for people to get on. Hey there, Cambria. Hello. How are we doing? All right, so we'll wait for a few people to get on. This time, no glitches. Facebook had an update and fixed Facebook Live. Thumbs up. Thank you, Facebook Live. Appreciate it. Thank you for working from your home. I appreciate it. So I'm going to get through this. Some of it is going to be looking at those numbers that we came out with on Thursday, because I've had a lot of time to think about it as well as write about it. The latest report came out. So without further ado, hey, how are you doing, Eugene? Awesome. Looking good. I'm actually I'm wearing sweatpants and slippers, in case you're wondering, because who really cares, right? Hey, wife. My wife is watching. Wonderful. How's everybody doing? Okay, we'll get started now. I have to go through all this so it legitimizes that I'm not just making things up. I am a quantitative economics and decision sciences major from UC San Diego in beautiful La Jolla, California. 29 years in the business. That just changed. Orange County native, Capital Valley High School grad, 9 kids. Yes, 9 kids, avid runner. And we're an athletic family, so it's not that I'm running away from my kids. I just love running. And but I'm getting a little older, so I'm getting a little more sore. And I brought 6, my wife brought 2, I adopted hers, she adopted mine, and then we had this bonus guy, Zeke. And in the midst of COVID-19 lockdown, we are potty training him. And he's doing pretty good for a 2-year-old. Let's see. So my background is I've been sending everything to the Orange County Register and Intune. I've ended up all over the place. That kind of happened. Orange County Register ran an article, and I ended up on KNX 1070 News Radio, as well as LA Times was hunting down a certain story. They wanted numbers of cancellations of escrows. I thought that was a couple weeks ago, and that's not really kind of what I wanted to bring up anyways. I mean, I could have dug and probably found cancellations, and I've talked about it before, but I want to move forward from here. So, I'm Stephen Thomas with reportsonhousing.com. What is that? That is you know what, you kind of need this housing report in order to navigate in this housing market. You definitely can't be looking out the rearview mirror and looking at closed sales data. That'll tell you absolutely nothing. I know that nobody can care less about February closed sales data. As a matter of fact, what we want to look at now is what's going on in the windshield, and that is active listing inventory and demand in the form of the last 30 days worth of pending sales velocity. And from that, we're able to come up with expected market time. Those are the kind of numbers that you want to see, so you understand exactly where we are right now today. So my son was calling me in the middle of this. My kids know that I do this every Tuesday and Friday, but apparently they can't remember. Anyways, the latest one just came out last night, and this and San Diego's comes out today, and it's the showdown. It's supply versus demand, and a lot of you think that I'm optimistic, maybe even some might think I'm overly optimistic, but I'm really reading the data and reading the tea leaves and looking to see where we're at right now, looking at a monstrous amount of information, even on COVID-19, see where the data curves lie and all that stats. And from that, that's how I gather the reports like the showdown and talking about supply versus demand. This is not the Great Recession. And I explain exactly why in this report and talk about this different showdown that we did not have prior to the Great Recession. Prior to the Great Recession, we had a supply issue of way too many homes on the market, that kind of a supply issue. We had an oversupply and very low demand. That in turn created this disastrous, distressed sets of waves that continue to roll. And this time around, it's completely different. We have that a supply issue of not enough homes on the market, as well as this demand issue of not enough demand right now, but they're kind of duking it out. They're two totally polar opposite forces that are kind of like working against each other, but at the same time what that creates is a bit of balance, and we'll get into that. So you go to reportsonhousing.com and click on subscribe, and I used to say, you know, skip Starbucks a couple times, and I'm sure if you're like me, you haven't been going to Starbucks as often, so definitely have the ability to sign up for this report. It's only $15 a month or $150 per year, and you get a month free if you sign up and use the coupon code LIGHT, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And let's see. So if you want to see what the reports are like, you can go to we've just created this. As Matt from Reports on Housing said, we got to come up with this because way too many questions. If you have questions about the report, what you can do with it, as well as sample reports, they're all in here from all the different counties. You just go navigate to FAQ and sample reports. And my sponsor, that is Matterport 3D. Holy smokes, this is where it's at. Everybody needs to go as virtual as possible. Yes, we're an essential service, but the way that we do that is by working electronically as much as possible. We can still do some of the nitty-gritty that needs to be done, like inspections and appraisals, although appraisals are being done where they're using drive-by and even QM models, so pretty cool. But Matterport 3D is effective virtual tours, online interactive virtual user-guided walkthrough tours of a home, and they have a special way of doing this with COVID-19 precautions. And go to reservephotographer.com, and it starts at $299 for their Matterport 3D tours. And love these spring fun photos. And most of the stuff is actually brought by my wife. She apparently she's in touch with a few more funny people than I am. So send me your stuff. I'd love to use them. So since we're doing masks, my wife made masks for all of us and other family members and all that stuff. So I thought this is how some people are improvising with not having the proper mask. I think this gal needs to take that off her head before she suffocates. And that's a bit ingenious, little orange. Coconut. Those are a couple foods that you could use. Maybe watermelon. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit ingenious. We get a little hot. I also worry about passing out. And yeah, I don't think that this is proper gear. I don't even think it comes close. That's just weird. And I thought that was fun. I think I should do that just for fun. Walk around Albertsons with, we have something like this. And then we've got this guy with the snorkel. Genius, with a little filter on top of the snorkel. And I have to share this as well. SGN. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but holy cow. My wife showed it to me, and she in turn showed it to everybody in her family. I've got to share it to everybody I know. Why? Because it is fantastic. It is some good news. You can go to, it's John Krasinski, facebook.com/some good news, and it is fun. The kind of things that he does, some good news. Some good news is if there's a lot of rain right now, and we always need more rain. Some good news is, all that rain created a roof leak in my house. This is true. But we bought our house back in October, and we have a home warranty plan. And that home warranty plan, they're coming out this Thursday to fix the roof. That's some good news. Do you see how this goes? Some good news. And you got to watch the last episode. Absolutely fantastic. And I don't even want to spoil it, but you got to watch it all the way to the end. Tearjerker. Pretty amazing stuff. So, coronavirus. Where are we at today? Well, we're at 1,407,000 cases, and that's up 30% since last Friday. But you have to understand, this is Friday to Tuesday. That's 4 days. And the next time we do it is in 3 days. What I'm starting to see is the velocity of the increase start to dissipate, which means that we're just starting, because up 30% is still not good, but it's starting to look like not straight up like a rocket ship, but it's starting to curve. There's a little bit of an apex to that. There's 300,000 recovered. That's up 33%. This is the first time I've seen cases are less than the increase in the number of recovered. That's a good sign. That's some good news. 81,000 deaths, up 40%. That's going to... The United States is going to contribute to that quite a bit over the next, this week and next week. We've been forewarned about that. There are 387,000 cases in the United States. That's up 43%. It was higher before, so 43% might sound astronomical, but since last Friday, but understand that it was a lot more, and it's starting to diminish a little bit. 12,270 United States deaths. That's up 77%. That's the increase that they were talking about. That is no good. And then we have 325 million US citizens. And in California, we have 16,429 cases. That's up 45% since last Friday. And total tests for COVID-19. Did I even go into that? Oh, we're at 1,951,000 tests. That's up 51% from last Friday. That's huge. And here it is. If you look at this, this is the United States compared to all the other countries, the number of tests that were given. So I'm going to say that we are on the right path. We're on the right trajectory. We're doing all the right things currently right now. Some people have argued that we've been late to the party. You know what? Let's get past that. Let's move on. Let's talk about where we're at right now. And this is looking a lot better. Here's some facts. Oh, I don't know why I did that. I did that again. But Southern California cases, 6,377 in Los Angeles. That's up 57% from last Friday. 832 in OC. That's up 34%. And 1,404 that in San Diego. That's up 45%. And then we have Riverside up 92%. And San Bernardino up that shouldn't say 743. That should say 74%. My apologies. So yeah, that's exactly what that says, 74%. And the reason why Riverside County and San Bernardino are so high is because of the fact that they were later in this COVID-19 in getting a lot more tests and reporting the numbers. And they must have had an infection rate that was a little bit later as well. And we've talked about this scale and duration, and we've definitely got the scale in the United States. There's only a few smidge states around here that have not joined the order yet for locking down all of the for locking down everything and stay at home. But they have some variations within the various states as well. And the United States, this is daily new confirmed cases. This is something that we want to watch because we want to see this hit an apex. We kind of did this thing where we came down, but we're going back up. We'll see where this is at. It will look more fluid as we go on, but it might be the start of the number of new cases coming down. Let's see. Yes, I'm over the extra number. I thought that was, that's how you do things here. This is how we fix things. We put our thumbs over it. Thanks, Scott, for pointing that out. This is South Korea. I've used this as the example for where everybody in the world wants to be, and that's because they took the most action. But here's something that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. This is California. This is when they think everything will peak. And if you look at, you can go state by state by state, and this is what the University of Washington has come up with for the United States and for each state. And for us, it really is middle of the month of April where we're going to be peaking in the hospitals. But if you look at this, it starts going down to where when we get to mid-May, there aren't any people in the hospital, or very few in the hospital. These are ICU beds and these are ventilators. And you can see that it starts to flatten out and it gets towards zero towards the middle of May. Does that mean that's actually exactly where we're going to be? Absolutely not. But what this tells you is that there is an end game to this thing. And Italy, which bad off as they are, if you can see, they peaked, but they've been coming down. This is fantastic news. And then we have Spain. They too, their society has been just absolutely decimated by this COVID-19. And they're coming around too. Their new cases has been falling quite a bit as well. And so we've got to look at that macroeconomic outlook. And I want everybody to know, first of all, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. When we're talking about all this macroeconomic outlook and we're talking about COVID-19, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for other countries that have been just absolutely wrapped in this COVID-19. China starting it, South Korea, and now we've got those bigger players that have had some real big issues that are starting to see a turn because they started a little bit earlier. But the macro charts are BC, that is before coronavirus. Everything looked fantastic. And now I'm not going to highlight all the different negative charts of the economy because naturally it's going to be there. We stopped the economy. So when you stop the economy, bad things are going to happen, and there's going to be lots and lots of charts to prove this. I will bring out unemployment and the things that I think that we need to focus on. I'm not going to be talking about airlines and all that stuff. Instead, I'm just going to throw up this slide for this is after the disease, that if you see this, there are negative charts that will continue to come, and I'll only highlight the ones that are most important. But I don't see anything out there right now that I should be highlighting that's the most important, because there's something else I wanted to bring up. But the economy looking down the road, these are the things that I'm still looking at. And believe me, I totally understand what's going on with unemployment. You gotta understand that with unemployment, a lot of these workers are furloughed. They will come back. A giant lion's share. Will there be casualties? Absolutely. It'd be foolish to think that we were at the lowest level that we possibly could be in unemployment, and now it's way high. When it comes down, it's not going to come instantaneously down to those low levels, because we had been doing an expansion for a very long time. But so these are things we're not watching. Unemployment, people are starting to dip into savings. Their investments, their 401ks have turned into 201ks, is what I've heard. But you want to know how many times that we've looked at our 401k investments? 0. And I brought that up in many different presentations, and the reason for that is because, you know what, I know what it will do long run. It's no good for me to take a look at what my 401k portfolio is, because I don't really need it right now. So, and we're also looking at how deep this Pandasin is. I hate to call it a recession, because we have not been here where we had a sudden stop, forced stop for healthcare purposes for the United States to keep people alive. It's an absolute wonderful thing what we're doing, but there are ramifications, and that is called the Pandasin. And we had a forced closure of all the economy other than essential businesses. We all know what those are. We're in uncharted waters. People try to extrapolate out where they think they're going to be. But believe me, when you're an economist, what we're doing is we're looking at everything in the back, and we're looking at not the rear view mirror. The rear view mirror tells us where we've been in the past, but we're in uncharted waters completely. So we look at all the data points of where we're at, and then we try to project where we think data points are going to land in the future. And with that, there is a lot of uncertainty, which is fear. But I want you to understand, and I have a lot more confidence than some people that I have been talking to, as well as just people that don't have as much faith. But I have a lot of faith in the United States that we'll get ourselves out of this thing. Have there been mistakes along the road? Absolutely. From the very beginning to even some of the bills that we've done, to this forbearance and all that stuff, it wasn't quite done right. Stephen, is it okay in California to hold off on paying any rent until June 1st? You know what? Here's the thing about forbearance and rent. If you have a job and you can afford it and you have money in the bank, the idea is to deplete that and to work through it, to utilize the savings, and if you're working, to continue to go. The problem with forbearance and the way that it was written is forbearance allowed anybody to take part in it. And there should have been structurally a better way of being able to gauge whether or not there was a problem. Now, as far as the forbearance is just you kick the can down the road, and at the 90-day mark or 180-day mark or wherever it is, you have to pay what's owed, unless you negotiate something that puts it on the end. Well, you better be able to prove that you need to put that at the end. Otherwise, they're going to be looking at that and say, hey, you've been working that whole last 6 months. So I'd be very, very careful on how you move forward on this. And just take a deep breath. Collectively, let's take a deep breath. Understand, we have the United States of America. We're the big behemoth. We will put as much as we can. We'll throw the kitchen sink at it. We'll throw everything we can to get us to the other side and bridge the gap from when this coronavirus lockdown began until we get to that other side. We're not going to leave everybody hanging. Does it mean that we're doing everything perfectly right now? It's like I said, there are some holes in the way that things are going. And part of that holes is the mortgage industry, all in general. And if you're a mortgage broker and you're watching this, or you know a mortgage broker, give them some love, because what they're going through is an absolute nightmare. So this is the average mortgage rate across the United States. It fluctuates so much that it's very, very hard to get an average, but they pull this every Thursday. But there's been this teeter-totter and I saw rates as low as 3 1/8. Now I'm seeing them between 3 1/4 and 3.375%, and people are going, yippee! But I want you to know that the real engine behind the lending market has been broken. The FHA, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are going to continue to keep the secondary market going, and we also have the Federal Reserve. They're purchasing they're purchasing loans, mortgage-backed securities, but part of the system is broken. Their forbearance, I talked about that, the way that they put that plan together, there are some holes in it. And what that is there's a mortgage servicing end of it. And when you have a loan, you notice how a lot of times your loan, all of a sudden you have somebody else that's servicing your loan. I already had it happen to us on our first and our second loan. We have somebody else that's servicing it. And with mortgage servicing, they're on the hook for any forbearance that they have to continue to pay the bonds. So what ends up happening is they get themselves into a hole, and the longer this goes on, the more that they have to have to deplete their balance books because people aren't paying. And that's my issue with forbearance. There needs to be a window that these mortgage servicing companies can go to help bridge the gap so that these companies don't go out of business, and so that we can free up the engine of loaning again. Because right now, the appetite for mortgage servicing companies is very low. They want to limit their risk, so they're right now not taking on that many loans. The reason for that is because there's a lot of risk. They don't know if somebody's all of a sudden going to start forbearance right after they close, and then they're on the hook and they have to pay the mortgage, and they're on the hook for that. So, and understand that non-QM loans, that's non-qualifying mortgages, those are totally broken. The system is, you've got to have some really stellar things going on in order for that to go. Jumbo Arena, has had a giant shock. I understand that Wells Fargo pulled out of it. I think what they pulled out of, from what I read, is that if you're a mortgage broker, you no longer can broker your loans over to Wells Fargo. They're just doing their own stuff right now. And that's all their pipeline can hold. And what they're trying to do right now, the way that lenders are operating, and unfortunately this is because the system is broken, they're trying to fit everything into this tiny little box. And in that tiny little box, they want conforming, conventional loans. They're looking at debt to income ratios, and they want them to be really solid. They're looking at credit scores. Credit scores have risen up considerably, and if you don't have that, you're paying points. Matter of fact, you're going to be paying points on a lot of things because there's so much risk that they want you to pay points up front just in case you go and refi or something else happens, and they have money now so that they can continue to operate. So love on your mortgage rep, but understand that's the issue that's going on right now. Done a lot of research on that, and why? Because it's been broken, and there's some very, very smart people trying to fix it right now. And then, so let's talk about the housing market. Let's talk about this supply problem versus this demand problem. The supply and demand, it really is two countering forces that are just at each other's necks right now. It's not like the Great Recession. Like I said, supply was weak. They had way too many homes in the market, so the low demand was ruling the day. And because there was so much low demand and nobody wanted to buy the widgets, what had to happen to the widgets? Because there were so many that the prices had to just absolutely fall in order for demand to start to rise. And the more that prices fell, the more that demand continued to rise, and that's what eventually got us out of the Great Recession. But this is totally different because we have strong demand, yet we don't have very strong demand, excuse me, scratch that, reverse it. We don't have strong demand, but we also have very, very low supply. And those are countering forces that are absolutely battling each other right now. And this was last Thursday, and if you look at this is where we are. Last Thursday we were at 29,148 homes on the market. That was up 1%, only 332 homes in 2 weeks. In a 2-week period, that's all we added for all of Southern California, so that's how much the inventory grew. Man, we should be putting a lot more on if demand is so low, right? So last year we were at 41,479. That was 42% more homes on the market last year than this year. So there's a lot of homeowners that are just not entering the fray right now. This is just not a good time. I'll wait until we get to the other side of COVID-19, when we get to that other side where the light is at the end of the tunnel. They're placing a lot of homes on hold, and people are coming off of the market. So that too, that's countering. The homes that are coming on, it is being countered by the ones that are coming on hold and the little bit of demand that there is. So it's kind of like balancing out, where we're not really rising that fast in the active inventory for all of Southern California. It's kind of stagnating. And the same thing is happening across the United States, where we have a supply problem across the United States. As a matter of fact, across the United States, it has even dipped a little bit. Not a good thing, right? Curious if you are tracking the origin of buyers, domestic buyers versus, yeah, you know what, I have just not had the time, and I know that internationally it's harder to get money out right now with so many embassies that are closed. So I can tell you international buying is probably a little bit down with embassies. COVID-19 is suppressing demand. For Pete's sake, that is it. That's the only thing that's holding back demand. Because if you go backwards a month and you looked at the prior 30 days, which was into February, we were looking absolutely fantastic. As a matter of fact, it beat my expectations. I knew we were in for a hot 2020, and it was beating my expectations. It was absolutely unbelievable. But then we had this big dip in demand. The COVID-19 dip, it's just suppressing demand. People are not able to operate. People are not able to close loans like they used to. And some buyers are holding back. Some are sitting on their fence, and they're sitting there saying, I can't wait for home values to come down. But that's just not what's going to happen. It's not in the cards yet. Somebody has got to show me some charts and data that shows that it's going to reverse course, because I've read articles and all that stuff, but it's not backed by sound data. And this demand last Thursday was at 11,135. That was down 30% in 2 weeks. And there's still room for this thing to go down, for it still to be a balanced market, because I'll show you in a second what's happened with that. Last year we were at 16,388. That was 47% more demand than where we were at today. We were, that orange line, you could see the orange line and the blue line, that was this year versus last year. We were doing better than the prior year. We were looking good. We were really, really strong. As a matter of fact, we had outstripped all of the prior year's lines there for a minute. You could see where that happened in towards the end of February, and then it's dipped since, and that is all has to do with coronavirus. But here's the expected market time. Expected market time's gone straight up. And this is where people might think it's wrong. They think that it's going to continue to go up, just as they think that this demand's going to continue to go down to zero. It's just not true, because I can prove that people are actually transacting, and there are escrows being opened up on properties that are actively on the market even within the last 2 weeks. And if I extrapolate that out, which I've done, and I've even taken an even worse number than extrapolating out what demand is based upon the last 2 weeks, even if it comes down a little bit more, and I'll get into that. But this is the expected market time, the blue line, but it's not going to continue to rocket up. What it's going to do, that's the initial reaction. We get that skyrocket. It's just like unemployment and everything else. It's going to go up, but then it's going to flatten out. SoCal last Thursday was at a 79-day expected market time. So we've zoomed all the way from a hot seller's market in the 40s all the way up to 79 days. Understand that once you get above 60, we're in a slight seller's market. Means that you can call more of the shots, and primarily it's those lower price ranges. For San Diego, LA, and Orange County, that's the 5 to 750. For San Bernardino and Riverside, that's like the 250 to 500, right around there. But you look at this is SoCal right now. SoCal last year was at 76 days, so now it's a little bit slower than it was a year ago. We passed that orange line. Looks like we're going to zoom right past that, doesn't it? But I'm here to tell you that we're going to move towards that balance, and I want to explain it so that you understand it, that I'm not making this stuff up. Did that line change? No, there it is. So this is where we are right now. This is where we are right now. We're below the balanced market. It does not become a buyer's market until we go above this 120 line. And it does not become a deep buyer's market until we go all the way up here at 150 days. We are not close. We are not going to hit that. Why aren't we going to hit that? Because we don't have the inventory for it. We have to have more homes on the market, and we're not getting it. And if you look at it right here, listed, closed, sold, closed, 28 days, didn't appraise, buyers closed it anyways last Friday. Well, that's good. Okay, but here we are. This is the balanced market. You can see we're still going to go up higher, and it's going to look like we're going to continue to scream. But then it's going to abate. And that's because demand will have reached that bottom, because there will still be, there's inherent demand in the marketplace, even in the last couple of weeks, and I've seen it. And we still have active inventory that's flat. So when you have flat inventory and flat demand that's not changing, the expected market time flattens out, and that's where we're headed. We're going to flatten out. And I put in a worst case scenario all the way up at 120 days, which is almost a slight buyer's market, but we're not even gonna hit that. But let's look at that. The projected expected market time of 120 days. And if we went up 3% more in the inventory, that would put us all the way up at 30,000 listings. That's up 3% from where we are today. The projected demand would have to be 7,500 pending sales. That's down 54% from where we are from where we were last Thursday. We will drop down a little bit from last Thursday because there was that first week in March that was still good. But we're digesting it, and I'm here to tell you, even if I took the last 2 weeks worth of data and doubled it, it is higher than 7,500 homes. So this is a worst case scenario, and yet that's 2 of my kids. Two of my kids contacted me at the same time, knowing that I'm in the middle of a Facebook Live. That's it, they're cut off. That's it, no more. They're both older kids in college too. They probably don't know what day it is, probably like we all don't know what day it is, right? But anyways, so we'll be at that balanced market, and this is worst case scenario. So, and it really boils down to supply and demand. You can't discount the supply and demand. And instead, we're extrapolating out, and people are saying, well, unemployment, at the end of the day, we're going to have those very, very low interest rates, and we're still going to have a very, very low active inventory. And yes, we'll get some people coming on, but there's some people that are going to opt not to sell. They might wait till 2021. You watch to see how this comes out. There's not going to be all of a sudden this giant curve, because a lot of people that purchased, they actually they qualified for their loans. They showed that they can make that monthly payment. They will continue to make their monthly payments. So this low mortgage rate environment is what is going to help us get out of this mess on the other side of this rainbow. And that's also when we're going to see the engine of all financial instruments work a lot better. Does it mean that they're going to bounce all the way back to where they were before? No. It takes time for that to heal. But is it going to be as negative as the Great Recession? Absolutely not. This is a knee-jerk reaction, this secondary market and all the investors and everybody, they're a knee-jerk reaction. Their knee-jerk reaction is because there's way too much risk in the system right now, because they don't know what it looks like right now. So, Steven, can you stop the rain? You're funny. So I'll answer any questions that you might have, but go to reportsonhousing.com, subscribe, get a month free. Use the coupon code LIGHT. I talk about this in great detail about the market forces of demand and supply and how they're duking it out right now. It really is something to watch, because last time when we had the Great Recession, it was obvious that it was lopsided and it favored the buyers. I was wondering when the wheels are going to come off. We just kept on putting people into homes that shouldn't have been into homes, and we kept on pushing that further down the road. But I'm telling you, it was not that. It was, I knew that the wheels were going to come off. This time around, I'm looking at the numbers, and you have to convince me why the wheels are going to come off. And I have people telling me all these anecdotal things about what they think and what they surmise and how they wonder, when are we ever going to get out of this? But I've shown you that there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not the data that I'm making up. It's what's happening in Spain. It's what's happening in Italy. It's what's happening in California. It's what's already happened in South Korea. So we've got it in what's happened in China. So go to FAQ and sample reports and click on that. You get a sample report. Thank you very much to Matterport 3D. It really matters right now, these virtual tours. So Matterport 3D, you go to reservedphotographer.com. It starts at $299, and that's it. I can take some questions that you have. So go ahead and ask any questions that you might have. Any data on delisting in the past 10 days? Yeah, you know what? I can't get that. I've tried, and it's very hard. I mean, I would have to pour through all the data, but there's so many different data. There's so much that I'm trying to look at. It's more of the lack of homes that are come on the market. Those are the things I'm watching. I'm watching that's diminished number of homes come on the market. Yes, there are some coming off. So what that's going to reflect in is where our active inventory is. That is where we are here to stay. Is it a good time to buy? It just depends upon what you can do with loan wise. It depends upon what your credit looks like. It depends upon the price point that you're looking at. You've got to look at everything, but you understand that you're not going to be bumping into as many people right now. So you can slow down. There's not going to be multiple offers. You can take more time looking for a property. You're not going to be bumping into buyers into the houses and bumping into them open houses and feel the absolute pressure to purchase right now. That really helps quite a bit. China had a huge surge in real estate values after the virus issues cleared. Yeah, you know what? I have to show you, and I will do this for Friday. I knew I forgot something. There's pictures of the economy of China before and after. The big difference is the before had everyone out there without masks. Now they're all out there, but they're still doing some social distancing, but the economy is functioning and they all have masks on. And I will bring that up on Friday when I put together the report. Can you take a note of that, Mason? I've got Mason over here. He's been helping me out. Come over here, Mason. You can say hello to everybody. If you see Mason, he's in his PJs already because it's raining. Who really cares? I'm actually in my slippers and I have sweats on, but you can't really tell. I look professional, don't I? Let's see. So is it a good time to buy? I've asked that. In general, you should probably not respond to questions live, including this one. Distracting. Very, yes. But we're doing the Q&A right now. So sorry. Are the number of homes being put on hold status increasing, and will this impact supply in the future? I've seen the numbers actually continue to they kind of hit a plateau, and which means some are going on hold and some are either coming on the market or they're withdrawing completely. So I've been watching those numbers, kind of writing those down just for fun. There's lots on hold. Yes, there are a lot on hold. It's about 10% of the market is on hold right now. Nicholas Hanna came in late, but love the reports. Overall projection for home prices in SoCal versus San Diego. Yeah, you know what? I'm actually seeing across the board, I'm going to do all of Southern California. San Diego is actually a little bit hotter than the rest of Southern California, just a tad bit. But for all of Southern California, we're seeing about 3% appreciation. And people were going, well, how can you talk about appreciation? Because you have to understand, in December, January, February, and March, we already appreciated. We had so much activity front-loaded in those first 4 months. And yes, we were doing it in December. I've talked about it before, the number of multiple offers that we were getting right in the middle of the holidays because there was nothing on the market. So that began the trajectory upwards. And Case Shiller actually, if you look at their last report, they noticed a big giant jump in appreciation. So you have to understand. So yeah, that was the direction that we were going. So we were going so fast that we probably in some areas got up to 5% appreciation, and that's short of a period of time. And that's where we do a lot of appreciation anyways in the spring. We just cut our spring off short. And yes, there could be some people that are in a sticky situation and need to sell for whatever reason, and they might take a little bit less. That's why we go from 5% down a couple percent, maybe at the most, and it's going to be flat, so at best. So we're looking at 3% by the time we get to the end of the year. And San Diego, they're a little bit hotter. I could see them do 4%. So it's not anything gigantic or anything like that. So that's where that's at. When do you think it would be a good time to list? Shoot, I would look at my price range and how incredibly hot it is. I did the report on Friday about the luxury listing side of things, and it was very, very, slow. It was slowing down completely. It just fell off of a cliff, and it's really slowing. I had somebody ask me about Laguna Beach specifically, and I know that they're looking right now at a 300-day expected market time after dropping down to a 200, and they would have continued to drop down to less and less. So it has slowed down in those upper ranges. So it really depends upon the area. You got to look at the housing report to look at the area and the price range. California has responded better to COVID than other states. Yeah, do you think it will cause a big bump in prices upwards? Yeah, if we get out of this thing faster, absolutely, when they free up our society. So you know what? We're at 3:38. I have promised that I will spend a little time with my family. They're all looking at me right now. I see Athena over here as well. So now I have Athena and Mason joining me. I will answer more of the questions offline that you have. But I just wanted to bring a few of the Q&A that came up, and I'll answer the rest of them as best as I possibly can. And we'll do some more Q&A down the road. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. Remember, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. You got to breathe, relax a little bit. You got to look at all the data and stats. Know that I am doing that as best as I possibly can. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm trying to bring it as it is. I'm telling you that it's a balanced market. I was telling you before it was a hot seller's market. I'm telling you where we're at right now and where I think we're going to be on the other side. I'm not trying to be overly optimistic or anything like that. I want to bring it to you as best as I see, and by looking at as much of the data, including the COVID-19 data, because that is ultimately what we got to look at so that we can get to the other side, so my kids don't have to wear masks when they go outdoors, and we can go back to normal again and we can play some soccer. We just did a Zoom soccer thing with all of our soccer team and Athena. I mean, come on, I can't wait to see these kids and play some real soccer. That'll be down the road. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful finish to your Tuesday.